Hi, Phil here in the SMC Development Lab. Today I'd like to show you how to get the maximum potential from our new firmware available for the RF-170-2S. This firmware is B478107 and it is fully ROAR approved on the ROAR approved list, and the potential from this for stock racing, only for stock racing, is very interesting. The punch rate has been increased to allow the maximum potential from the ESC to be sent straight to the motor, and we've found that through testing, both drivers on and off-road have found great success with this and are very impressed, and their lap times have improved. Once the firmware has been installed into the ESC, remember you need a PC to be able to do that, and you can find the firmware on our website. You will also need to update your program box and put firmware EE470208 in there. This firmware will, for the program box, will allow you to get the full potential out of the ESC. I'll just turn on the ESC here and I'll walk you through some of the new features. This is in my personal touring car, so I'll show you exactly what my settings are. As you can see, it's 478107. Comes up to tell you what firmware is in our ESC. Operation mode, I just use forward brake, drag brake, 20%. This ESC tends to like quite a lot of drag brake depending on what ESCs you've come from. This ESC tends to like quite a bit of drag brake and perform very well with quite a bit of drag brake. Brake strength in a touring car, especially with a stock motor, 100%. Voltage cutoff, I've never gotten to voltage cutoff on a touring car, but I always set it at something very high just in case something ever goes wrong. I use it as a safety feature. I personally set it at 7.1 volts, so that's total pack voltage. Here's the big thing in punch profile. Typically we had level 1 up to 12. Now with this new firmware we now go 10, 11, and it says max. This is the big feature within this ESC. It is how much the punch profile has been opened up. There's no more profiling at all on the punch rate. It lets 100% of the current from the that it can draw from the battery into the motor, giving you fastest possible lap times. Deadband, I typically use around 3%. Obviously, because we're running stock racing, no boost timing, no turbo timing, and we can just skip through all of these and get to no reverse speed. Interesting items. Depending on the track, the drive frequency we tend to play with a little bit. On a longer track, I tend to use a little bit more drive frequency, but if you're looking for, especially on short bullring style tracks, you're looking to get the maximum, we go straight down to 1 kilohertz. Brake frequency, one of the new features in this firmware is also that we've gotten the brake frequency minimum down from 1 kilohertz to half a kilohertz or 500 hertz. This gives a little bit more punchiness to the brakes, especially on the initial feel. Good for stock racing again. Could be very useful in mod as well if you are on a high grip surface. Temperature set, typically don't use it in stock racing. Reverse rotation, normal rotation. I always use the censored only system. This maximizes the ESC. It tends to run a little bit cooler when you do this and a lot more efficient. BEC voltage, I only use 6 volts. This is a high voltage servo in this car, but I still only use 6 volts, more than fast enough. Restore defaults, no, and we've cycled through the modes. So that's a brief explanation of how to get the most from this firmware, especially in stock racing. If you're using this ESC with this firmware for modified racing, do not go to the max setting in the punch profile. It is very likely that it can overload the FETs. There is no safety features anymore in punch. It's fully open and it'll give you what it's got, which for mod racing is probably too much and can tax the ESC tremendously and will make sure that its lifespan is very short. That's it. That's the only warning. Hope you enjoyed the new firmware. Testing so far has proved it to be very good, very efficient, and most important, very fast. Speak to you soon. Take care.